Respected ladies and gentlemen, I am Colonel Sajjad Bir Pratik. I also hold the highest civil honor of Bangladesh, which is Sadhinata Padak. Welcome to my talk today. Today, I'm going to speak to you about 1971, the liberation of Bangladesh. The two-nation theory for which Mr. Jinnah fought proved to be a disaster for the people of Bangladesh. In 23 years, Jinnah's Pakistan became a Qabristan for us. We lost everything. In 1947, we were 56.4% of the population speaking in Bangla, and they were 43.6%. They imposed Urdu to be the national language. They took the decision of making Karachi the capital. Jinnah himself declared himself as Governor General. 90% cabinet ministers were theirs. And we became actually a colony. My friends, you'll be surprised. We Bengalis were being treated like gulams. We lost everything. Pakistanis had many tricks in their sleeves. They first started depriving us from everything in the name of equal rights. We were not equal to them. Once they controlled the country fully, they started imposing martial law one by one. Till 56, Pakistan was a dominion of the British. Then we thought a democracy is going to come. But within 2 years, we had a martial law imposed by Ayub Khan. He ruled for 10 years. We had launched movements against martial law, but couldn't make a breakthrough. Bengal was waiting for a leader, and the leader emerged, which is 6-point program, which he delivered in Lahore in 1966 on the 7th of November. In that, the 6 points were basically emancipation of Bengalis by asking for equal rights. And that's all. The disaster we had economically, socially, education-wise, health-wise was beyond any apprehension. So the leader, his name was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He emerged from the common masses and he started preaching his 6 points throughout entire East Pakistan. He was arrested. It was very common for Sheikh Mujib to be arrested. In Pakistan's 23 years, he was in jail for 11 years, 4 months and 20 days. Almost half of the Pakistan time he was in the jail. They started putting him into the jail again on the conspiracy charge and all that. In between, Ayub Khan lost his credibility and he handed over the power to one general called General Yahya Khan, who was his dear friend. And Yahya Khan started ruling the country. There was a lot of agitation. Yahya Khan gave an election. Pakistan's famous intelligence agency called ISI briefed Yahya Khan that if you give an election, Mujib can never win. West Pakistan's leader Zulfikar Ali Bhutto will win hands down, and Yahya believed in that. They held the election under martial law. They held the election with a black law also, emerging out of the martial law legal framework. But people's voice was heard. People mobilized themselves. Sheikh Mujib was being now called as Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Sheikh Mujib, the friend of Bengal. And the friend of Bengal mobilized the entire population. Massive mandate he won. In East Pakistan at that time, out of 300 seats, he got 292. And whole of Pakistan, he got 167 out of 300. And he told Yahya Khan that hand over the power to the parliament, and the parliament session must be held at Dhaka. Yahya Khan held some meetings with him, but he had other motives. On 16th of January 1971, he called his ISI officials, military officials and favorite bureaucrats and said he was very tired and he wanted to go for bird shooting. By the name of bird shooting, 4 helicopters flew out of Karachi, landed in Larkana, the palace of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the defeated leader of Pakistan. They said they are going for bird shooting, but they didn't plan for bird shooting on that night. Whole night they drank Black Dog whiskey, we also know about that. And they planned for a crackdown, a massive operation. And we call it the Larkana conspiracy. Everything that happened in 1971 in Bangladesh was actually a part of Larkana conspiracy. My friends, Pakistanis are very used to genocide. Let history say so that I am correct. Habib Jalami, the famous poet from Balochistan, once said, Balochistan was in cage and dying. In 1968, I went to Balochistan once to visit a friend of mine. Going out of Quetta, the bus stopped near the highway. People got down, the passengers, for a cup of tea. We used to call it kawa, black tea. Before entering the shop, tea shop, I found in red words, it is written, Amma lal teri khoon kiya khuniya. In English, mother, your children are being killed by the killers. I asked the shopkeeper, what is this? He took his eyes out, quietly told me, Dekho mat, don't see, bolo mat, don't speak. Tikka aa gaya. Tikka was the butcher of Balochistan. Pakistanis killed Balochis in thousands, threw away lakhs of Balochis out of Pakistan. And they had the successful experience suppressing Baloch movements. Then they had the experience. Also, they did the similar crackdown in Jordan. Pakistan General Ziaul Haq cracked down on the Palestinians near the Jordan River on the order of King Hussein of Jordan and killed Jordanian people the same way. So it was nothing surprising. They are trained for genocide. So what Yahya Khan did is bring up Tikka Khan, the same man who did the butchery in Balochistan. He sent in lakhs of soldiers, divisions after divisions, quietly. And he mobilized his dear generals to take their command. Searchlight, that's the name of the operation plan by which genocide was conducted. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman came to know about it. And he had two options in front of him. Either surrender to the Pakistanis or call people for taking up arms. He preferred the second one. He had the faith in the people of Bengal. He knew Bengalis don't surrender. We have a rich tradition of fighting against the Pathans, the Mughals, the British, and the Pakistanis for very long duration. We have launched successfully the peasants' mutiny against the British and really created a lot of problem for them. So on the 7th of March 1971 in Dhaka, in the Ramna Racecourse Maidan, he called for people for taking up arms if they are attacked. He knew attack is coming. And he gave them directive that it will be a guerrilla warfare. Kill them, attack them on the marshes, in the water bodies, make every house a fortress. People listen to him. On the 25th of March, Tikka Khan launched his divisions. A lot of people can tell me I am very biased, but I will now quote you from Pakistanis and their journals' books. First of all, after the war was over, on the 27th of December 1971, an inquiry was launched which is called Hamdur Rahman Commission. Chief Justice Hamdur Rahman was ordered to launch a commission. In that Hamdur Rahman Commission, everything was written. But before it could be published, ISI seized all the 7 documents. Only a part of the first document was leaked out. Yahya Khan, Tikka Khan, and all these Khans started doing the atrocity. Let's come back from the horse's mouth. On the 26th of March, when Operation Searchlight was being launched, Tikka Khan came out from his command post and casually said, Dhaka has no people. Only few stray dogs are roaming around in the streets. I've killed everyone, that's what he said. Bobby has used everything in his hand. Bobby was his favorite brigade commander in Dhaka, Brigadier Jahangir Arbab. He did the massacre in Dhaka. And he says he used everything in his hand, every weapon in his hand to kill people. And Bobby was awarded. Later on, he made into a lieutenant general for killing Bengalis. On the same evening, 26th, Yahya Khan said in a statement, I will kill 3 million of them. Rest will eat from my palm. What a proud and arrogant statement. And Tikka Khan conducted genocide for 1 month. On the 7th of April, Niazi Khan took over, another Khan replaced by one Khan. And he called the officers' conference and said, Ye haramzada kaum ka main sabak sikaunga. I will teach these bastards, people of the nation, a lesson. Uska naksha main badal dunga. Will change their blood. And that was the massive instruction for conducting rape and murder. Let history say so, that Pakistanis conducted genocide, war crime, rape, murder, and looting. Their soldiers were motivated and told before they left from Karachi by sea and by air that you are going to go for jihad. People you see in Bangladesh, those people, they will say Muslim names, but they are all munafiq, non-believer, non-Muslims. If you kill them, there'll be no guna, no sin. If you kill them, there'll be no court-martial. If you rape their women, because the women are non-Muslim and munafiq. You know, munafiq is treacherous people. You'll have no worry about that. So that was the command structure going on. And why shouldn't Bengalis fight? And they took up weapons in their hand. Resistance started in all over Bangladesh. But how long can you go on without support? These Mukti Bahini boys fell back to India. Indian BSF, later on army, on the order of the central government, gave them weapons, gave them ammunition, and also gave them training. Forces were being mobilized. Millions of Bengalis went over to India. In total, 98 lakhs 99,305 refugees walked into India. Indian people didn't let them down. The common people of India came forward. Government machinery came forward. The NGOs came forward, and they were given some support to live on. But interestingly, a young man takes his mother and sister and his brother, young children, to the refugee camp, leaves them there, and goes and joins the Mukti Bahini camp. The best officers of Indian Army, I think, trained them because I saw the training myself. I was to be taken to the training camp sometimes. I saw the amount of hardship these Indian officers were taking to train the Mukti Bahini. And I also saw how these boys were training with minimum food, minimum clothing, and no money whatsoever. But then the war went on. We are being able to punish Pakistanis in every place on Bangladesh. Ultimately, on the 21st of November 1971, Indian forces and Bangladeshi Mukti Bahini together formed an allied force. It was decided if Pakistan attacks India anytime, we'll fight together. And Pakistanis gave us the opportunity. On the 3rd of December, 60 aircrafts of Pakistan took off from Peshawar Air Base of Pakistan and attacked 10 air bases in India. But Indians were smart enough. They understood and they planned for it earlier. They didn't keep their aircraft into these bases, only few dummy and few aircraft only, which were hit. Sorry. Getting that message, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared war against India. Now Mukti Bahini and India forces started marching together. And Pakistanis started falling back. Ultimately, it all happened on 16th of December at 4:30. Indian Army and Bangladesh Army reached the outskirts of Dhaka, and Pakistan's General Niazi agreed to surrender. But 7 days before, he had a press conference in which he said, touching his chest, that we will not be defeated. Let the Indian tanks come. I'll be the first one to face the tank and let the tank roll over my dead body. I have 23 battle honor medals. Those medals didn't protect him because he lost morally. Why Pakistan is lost, we must know. Because there was corruption, lack of command, and indiscipline everywhere. I always say, a general who patronizes prostitution can never win a battle. And I have got a reason to believe that. Now let me come to a small introduction of mine. I was a Pakistani officer. I was posted to Sialkot of Pakistan, 14 elite paratroop brigade. My brigade fought in Shakkargarh in 71. Very well-trained brigade. But then when the genocide started, I had a choice in front of me. The tragedy of Hamlet, to be or not to be, to do or not to do. I decided to leave my job, leave everything, my money, my clothing, everything. Put on one boot, one shirt and one pad. When 20 rupees in my pocket, I walked down through Shakkargarh into J&K, into Kashmir, and walked all the way and came and joined the Liberation War. It's a long story. Your time limitation not allow me to say so. But let's understand from historical perspective why Pakistan is lost. I'll give you some examples from history. Number one example, Ikotuma Island 1944, 19th of December, American Marine 10th Division was attacking the island. There were 5,000 soldiers of Japanese in that island. For 19 days, the Japanese fought ferociously. Then there was no firing coming from the other side. Marines started going to the Japanese position. What they found was a horrible thing. They counted dead bodies, 25,000 Japanese soldiers dead. They counted 392 bodies, not dead, almost dead. Before they are given treatment, they all died. That is the act of soldiery. Get back to another story. Abaipur village near Jhinada, border area of Bangladesh. Next to the river bank, into those group of villagers, Mukti Bahini declared that to be a free area, free of Pakistan. This is Bangladesh. Pakistan has launched 2 attacks but couldn't repulse them, very determined. On the 19th of September, Pakistan attacked with 1 company to the center of Mukti Bahini position. The center was held by 19 Mukti Bahini boys with only 1 light machine gun and 303 rifles. Whole night they fought. In the morning, there was no fire coming. Pakistanis crossed the small river and came and found 13 Mukti Bahini boys, all very young boys, all dead. 6 were a little bit moving, and they all died within 1 or 2 hours. And Pakistanis, to reassure themselves, shot every one of them. Another incident I must tell you. This is the thing. I have seen the sins that no man and woman should see. These are all within my purview of my experience. Indian 4 Guard Regiment crossed over to Brahmanbaria, attacking the Pakistani's 14th Division headquarters. Major General Qazi Abdul Majid ran away. When they were approaching the command post, they found 6 soldiers of Bihar Regiment. All of them, their hands tied, all of them shot in the head. What a savage attitude. And then they went further near their command post. They found 66 Mukti boys with their hands tied, everybody shot on the head. They are all POWs. And 93,000 POWs surrendered, but they were not killed by Indian Army. My friends, let me go back to 1962, the Chinese War. 13 Kumaun Regiment holding a mountain pass. C Company commanded by Major Satyan Singh. He is a brave warrior. He repulsed 7 attacks. It was the month of November end, snowing and snowing, minus 35-degree temperature. They had no warm clothing practically. They fought and they fought and they fought. 7 attacks repulsed. Then there was no trace of them. After 2 months, when the snow started melting, the rescue team went and found out 131 soldiers. They counted body because they had 131 soldiers missing. Everybody dead. Everybody holding their weapon. Even the wildest operator holding his wildest set. Not a surrender. Nobody surrendered. Let's come back to 16 December 1971. Dhaka has 26,776 soldiers with 4-5 generals. They had defenses all around. They have tanks, aircraft, helicopters. My friend, they didn't fight an inch. They surrendered. This is the difference we must know. But why they surrendered, I give you some example. I was in Pakistan Army. Allow me to quote from there, my experience from there. There is a house in Lahore, the Punjab capital, beautiful city, Mughal city. It has Shalimar Garden also. There is a beautiful area, which is a posh area, which is called Gulbagh, the most beautiful area of Lahore. It had a very beautiful house. The name of the house was Senorita House. The manager of that house was Amina Firdausi, one lady. That was Niazi's brothel. Niazi, as a corps commander of Punjab, used to patronize brothels and do trading on brothels. And how can their general fight? Similarly, Samina Firdausi was the manager of his brothel in the cantonment of Sialkot, where he was commanding also. They are martial administrators, nobody can speak against them. That is the character we should take the lesson upon. And why did we win? Because of number of reasons. Any army which is a conquering army, they kill people, they conduct rape and looting and murder. This is all over world history. Indian army had lakhs of soldiers into Bangladesh. I'm very proud to tell you, not a single case of rape, not a single case of murder. That's the reason they won. You don't fight with your weapon, you fight with your heart. That's what you have to remember. And you can be very proud of your army. Now coming back to the present generation. In 71, we fought the war, but due to many reasons of politics and other things, and the sad tragedies of Bangladesh, our father of the nation was killed, assassinated with entire family, national leaders were killed, and we had a military or a pro-military government for 26 years, and history took a backseat. We were disassociated from each other. But after the taking the state power by election by Sheikh Hasina, daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Bangabandhu, she reached out to India. Our relationship has been strengthened much better than before. And what we can do about that? How can you put the history right? We are taking some steps which I must tell you. First of all, we freedom fighters and approached our Honorable Prime Minister that we must honor the Friends of Bangladesh of 1971. And she agreed. We have honored 377 luminaries who helped us in 71 Liberation War and helped us to gain victory from all over the world. Out of them, 79% are from India. That's a very proud moment for us to say. And then I had another idea. Gentlemen, I am from Pakistan's Para Brigade. I fought a number of actions side by side with Indian Army. And I have seen the young people dying. It was not a catwalk. It was a difficult battle. Every battle is difficult. Indian Army had lots and lots of casualties. I had the privilege of meeting Honorable Prime Minister and told her, if you do not honor Indian soldiers, it will be historical injustice because Indian soldiers are also Mukti Bahini. Because any soldier who fights for liberation is a Mukti. Because Mukti is freedom. He said, I agree with you. I said, we must honor every Indian martyr soldier. He made me in charge of this project. I am working for honoring every Indian martyr soldier, going to their villages, doing their interview, writing their citations, and we are honoring them. We are bringing history to life and history to the present day scenario. But in 26 years, our new generations of Bangladesh and India have been detached. We must engage each other for the cause of our prosperity, for the cause of our future generation, for the cause of 1971. I always say the blood of Indian soldiers lacks thousands of them, mingle with the muddy soil and watery soil of Bangladesh, flowing and flowing, still flowing through Padma, Meghna, Jamuna, and Tista, all the famous rivers. They keep on flowing because history is the flow of justice. Let history say so that together we fought in 71 and we won a massive victory. Let history say so that we observed rules and regulations of the war and won the war. Let history say so that common people of India and Bangladesh stood up together against tyranny and injustice. And let history say so that 1,602 soldiers were martyred inside Bangladesh territory, and 14,000 soldiers were wounded. Not a small deal. The history of 71 is to be written with blood. But only war veterans should write it. The new generation of Indians and Bangladeshis should write it. Why? Because this should be the flow of justice. Let history say so that in 71 we worked together and achieved a glorious history. And let us work together again for the goodness of our people. And let our generations have the same bondage of friendship between themselves as we had in 1971. And I would like to thank you all for listening to me. And I am humbled by being given the opportunity to talk to all the here. I come back to that. I'm honored to be able to speak to such luminaries from India and the new generation of Indian citizens. Together, we can achieve a lot, like in 71. 71 is a period we love because we are together. And let 71 remain in our hearts in the future too. Thank you very much. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It is